Welcome back, Little Big Heroes. Today I wanted to take a closer look at some of the beta footage that Media Molecule recently showed off in their latest live stream. We've already looked at some of the environments and some of the characters and sculptures, but I wanted to take a closer look at some of the gameplay. If you enjoyed today's video, why not give us a like? If you're new to the channel, subscribe to become a Little Big Hero, and don't forget to click the notification bell to keep updated on all of the latest Dreams content. Now, one of the first things that we actually see is mostly about exploration. Now, because it's a beta, a lot of people will just be creating environments, so they don't really have a lot of time to create environments, characters, and gameplay. So they're having to choose one of the three and then maybe stretch that into a second thing. As you can see from the first example, it's mostly about the environment, but he did create a character which you could run around the environment with to explore, and the goal was to find these little totems, and there was 12 in total. So this is one of the types of gameplay that we've seen from the beta. It's basically going around the environment and just finding things. And there's a lot of real life video games that basically do this. I'm personally not really a fan of it. I think one of the games was called Gone Home. I think I got it once on PlayStation Plus, but there's plenty of other games like it where you just explore. There's no enemies, there's no other characters. It's like that game Gone to the Rapture. For me, it was, it's very nice, but it was a bit too boring. I don't really appreciate those type of games where they try and tell a story through journals and notes, things that are around in the environment. It's not really my type of game, so it's not the type of thing that I want to see in Dreams. But hey, if you want to show off your environment, if you want to show off your character, I guess it is a good way to add in a little subtle piece of gameplay, which is quite nice. The biggest genre which I'm expecting to see, especially from this beta footage, is 3D platformers. And normally these 3D platformers will have some kind of unique gimmick. So the unique gimmick in this particular level here, you can control time. So you pick up a time bracelet and you can manipulate the environment, play it back and forward in order to platform your way across the entire level. Now with 3D platformers, it's pretty much what I expected of Dreams. It's the natural progression from the 2D Little Big Planet style, and of course you could make some 3D in Little Big Planet, but the whole point of Dreams for me is the fact that you can make a fully 3D game. Naturally that would make platformers the #1 choice. It's not my #1 choice for how I want to make 3D games, but it's certainly going to be the #1 choice for a lot of people, especially a lot of people who are coming from Little Big Planet who make 2D platformers. Now they can translate that into 3D. So it has all the typical gameplay mechanics you would expect, going around collecting things, whether it's points or collectibles, maybe some light combat, and I can see some people either remaking or taking advantage of some of the gameplay from Mario, the 3D Mario games, Banjo-Kazooie, Sonic, and one of my favourites would probably be Ratchet & Clank. If I was to make a 3D platformer, it would probably be similar to Ratchet & Clank. I like the mix of the action with the platforming, so you're not just collecting things, you've also still got a bit more action to keep you entertained. But 3D platformers aren't necessarily in my book, but maybe it's in the plans for you guys, and we'd love to hear about what kind of 3D platformers you're looking to make. And of course, the other genre would be simply 2D platformers, because people can't get enough of those. So if you're coming from Little Big Planet or you're coming straight into Dreams, maybe you're just more curious about 2D platformers. Maybe it's simpler to make. I remember I watched the developers of Sonic. They were talking about the transition between 2D and 3D, and they said that once you go into 3D space, everything becomes so much more complicated because there's so many things the player can do which you can't really anticipate. So it's going to create a whole load of extra problems if you do start with 3D. So, Dreams is built for 3D in mind, but if you want to start off with something more simple and work with 2D, it's still perfectly possible, and I can see a lot of people tapping into that Little Big Planet nostalgia and trying to create something similar. I'm expecting a lot of old school remakes or inspiration from a lot of old school games. So this could be 2.5D, so we've got the 3D but on the 2D plane, similar to Little Big Planet, or we could see some pixelated games. It's still perfectly possible to make pixelated games, I don't see why not. I haven't seen a whole lot, but from the footage here we can see that there's a nice little gimmick here. It's a 2.5 level where he eats a quantum donut and it lets him choose between a thin and a fat state, and as you go fat you turn into this massive ball that lets you roll around, and it certainly adds an extra layer of unique gameplay. And I can see a lot of people trying to, like as they did in Little Big Planet, try to make a 2D platformer, which is quite unique. It's it's not just run of the mill, they'll try and come up with really cool concepts. I guess it's just a preference if you prefer to play or create in 2D or 3D. I think both are really going to excel no matter what. And of course you're still going to see a lot of inspiration from Mario and Sonic, and probably a lot from Castlevania and Metroid. I think that those type of games are going to be very important because you can get upgrades, you can go around the map and however you choose. It's not so linear. It's a good way to sort of give the illusion of 3D but still stick to a 2D plane. So it'll be interesting to see the ratio of 3D, or at least the ratio of good 3D levels to good 2D levels, and we'll see what fits best and what works well. Another gameplay style that we got to witness was racing. Well, not really racing, but driving. But you could see that when you're driving around in the car, it's perfectly possible to create all different types of vehicles, and you can create all sorts of different types of racing games. And this would be especially good for online because you want to get a lot of players together, and what a better way than to smash and crash each other to victory. This was very difficult to create in Little Big Planet because the only way to make a proper racing game is if you made it top down, and it was okay, the physics weren't that great. If you tried to make a 2D racing game, it wasn't so great. So the racing in Dreams will be very interesting to see since it's fully 3D. I can see a lot of people making a wide variety of different racing games. The first one that we'll probably see is probably more karting games. So again, we're going to use the Mario comparison with Mario Kart, maybe also the Sonic karting, and you also saw that Crash Bandicoot is getting a remake. So we're probably going to see a lot of Crash Team Racing remakes or inspired karting games. What I would personally love to see is another Burnout game, something inspired by Burnout. We've not had it for a long time, so it would be really cool to see if you can create a vehicle in Dreams and have it change based on damage, and to see how fast you can actually make a car. I think that's going to be the most interesting thing to see. And of course you've got other inspirations like Need for Speed, MotorStorm, F1, and not only just for racing games, but you could also use the vehicles for open world games. So if you look at games like Borderlands, it's mainly a first person RPG, but you do get access to vehicles in order to traverse across the wide landscape. So it's certainly another way that you could use vehicles not just in racing but in any type of level that basically requires an open world. And another style we saw was the party / minigame genre. So here we've got something that looks very much like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and it's pretty spot on. It's great for high scores on the leaderboards. I can see a lot of people returning to try and beat their scores. Something on Little Big Planet which I don't think was done so well. When people created these sort of high score levels, normally people would play it like once or twice, and I'm not talking about everyone, but generally people would play it once, maybe twice if you're lucky, to try and get a score, and then they would never return again. Hopefully that's something Dreams can change. Already from the beta I have played this Rock Hero game quite a few times, and it's nice because it actually lets you register your score inside the game, so it's not just on the leaderboards. If I go into this game at any point in time, I can actually see my score from my previous time. And another great thing about these type of games is that they're short and they're quite fun, so you don't have to put in a lot of time, and you can also involve a lot more people, maybe people who don't know anything about Dreams, or maybe they just don't play a lot of video games, and it's nice to create your own unique party and mini games. You could create something extremely wacky, something really interesting. It doesn't have to be a conventional thing like this Guitar Hero style game. It could literally be anything that you can think of to get your friends or your family interested in Dreams. And those were some of the genres that we came across from the beta footage. We can't talk about more things that we witnessed from the beta, but from the beta footage I think it's fair to say that there's a nice variety of genres being created, and we can't wait to see what people come up with through the rest of the beta. And indeed once the full game releases, it will be interesting to see just how far these genres can go, and to see what the ratios are between all of the different genres, what are the most popular to create, what are the most popular to play, and statistics like that. So what genre are you most interested to create in the Dreams beta or in the full game itself? And also, which gameplay style did you like the best, or do you still have concerns about any of them in particular? Let us know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching today's Dreams video. If you enjoyed today's video, why not give us a like? If you're new to the channel, subscribe to become a little big hero, and don't forget to click the notification bell to keep updated on all of the latest Dreams content. See you in the next Dreams video.